Okay, thank you, Doctor. So let me just present, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So as you know, I'm going to be focusing on death, and I will actually apply some of the theories or some of the articles that I use in my first assignment. And I
Good.
also found some interesting ones online about death in an academic manner, so to speak. Okay.
Okay.
So this is a Venn diagram. This is what I think um, differentiate both novels, and also a bit of similarity in the middle. So for me, of course, the idea of identity and how death impacts those identities are very important. So that is going to be the direction of my presentation. Okay. And then, so yeah, I'll be focusing on this civilian Shiite Muslims in the past and young American soldiers. They are the minority, but they are with power. Okay. So these are just, obviously I'll be applying the American school because we'll be looking at power dynamics and obviously the current issues that are ongoing in the world. And then the definition of comparative literature, just for the sake of definition, I will be looking at Tosi. However, I will also be criticizing it because it does other, um, that those that are not Wenton centric. What I was thinking was actually making the Sinan Antun circle bigger because I want to emphasize that I'm looking at Sinan Antun's work as the central,
Why don't
and
you?
then yes.
Why don't you?
Oh, because because I'm not sure whether is it just me interpreting things too much. But I was thinking of making this bigger, and then the yellow bird serve as the periphery or as the invasive, encroaching part of literature that we are looking at.
You
I
may
think
begin. You may begin slide 2 because slide 2 is okay. First of all, I'm just going to interject. Yeah, I'm just going to
yes,
give
no
my
worries, no worries.
comments. I'm just going to give my comments here rather than at the end. So first thing to do is with regards to the PowerPoint slide, make sure that every slide has a title. So,
Yes.
so in this slide, are you giving a synopsis of the two novels? Are you introducing the conflict? Are you introducing the thesis statement? What exactly is the purpose of this slide? By the look of it, it's more like a synopsis of the two novels and where
Yes, exactly.
the point of convergence is, right?
Yes.
So based on slide number 2, what is the thesis statement? Then slide number 3, you may reconfigure the diagram by
Mm,
saying that for the purpose of this discussion, you're going to put the corpse washer in the center of discussion and
okay.
and comparing it against yellow bird. So then you can have the corpse washer, the next slide, if you like. So if you
Mm,
put slide number 3, you put another slide, you
mm,
duplicate slide number 2
yes.
and put the corpse washer in the center and yellow bird on the periphery.
Oh,
So then,
wonderful.
so then it contests slide number 3 right now, which is
Mm,
Tutosi's definition. So you can suggest that you're reading, comparative reading. So you don't need to go into the definition and everything. You just go straight fluidly into the discussion. But
mm,
immersed in the discussion, you bring in whatever is relevant to the discussion.
yes.
So you don't need to separate it from, because the focus of this discussion is a seminar on comparative literature across time and space,
Yeah.
looking at two different national canons. So that being the case, what you are doing is comparative literature. You are applying the study of you're applying the two novels, the reading of the two novels within the discipline of comparative literature, right? So
All
you
right.
don't need to have slide number 3 as because it creates a kind of a fracture in the discussion
I
because you're like
agree.
talking about the two novels and then suddenly you break it into world literature, future comparative literature. Don't need to do that. You have that in your notes.
Yeah.
These will be in your notes and you will bring them where necessary. So for instance, so if you can do that, can you duplicate slide number 2? Just let's do that together.
Okay. Mm, Okay, so
Right.
this is like the basic ones.
This is just the synopsis, right?
Okay.
So slide number 3, do whatever you wanted to originally, and
Mm,
in doing so, narrate the fact that you are challenging Tutosi's definition of comparative literature, in which texts that were in which texts from the Euro-American canon
yes.
in the center, you know, and it
Yes.
is being compared to texts from other literary canons, including the marginal. So
Yes.
in your seminar, you would like to propose a reverse of that methodology, which
Mm,
is to position in an Eastern novel, albeit in the world literature canon, an Eastern novel that has received recognition, originally written in Arabic, now
yes.
translated by the author into English, blah 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 blah. Then you can just go into that,
All
right? Then
right.
you can bring in points from slide number 4 now, where you find necessary without positioning it in your seminar.
Wonderful. Because I have a lot of like theoretical notes that I'm not sure how to sip into it. So I suppose I don't have to present them as some sort of a proof to show that I have theoretical foundation.
You will show them without having to spell them out like this.
Okay. All
You
right.
you will have to, because you see, the beauty of doing literary studies is you cannot escape from bringing in works from other areas, from other disciplines,
Mm,
history, sociology, cultural studies, politics, even, right?
yes.
Because they inform the writers themselves.
Mm,
Right. So these other disciplines help inform the writing of the novel. So how can you do a critical reading of these novels without bringing in those elements of area studies?
yes. Okay. All right. That's wonderful, doctor.
But in your presentation, in your seminar, be mindful that you are constantly bringing in whatever is relevant to the
Mm,
discussion, right?
okay.
Without breaking the
That's true.
coherence or your narrative. Your own narrative in the seminar is to ensure that these two novels become center in your focus, in your discussion. Hence, the thesis statement is not about comparative literature, it's not about Tutosi's definition, it's
Mm,
about these two novels and where they converge and how they converge. But your methodology, if you remember one of the points that I made in a lecture slide, where the approach is your approach. The students get to decide the
yes.
approach they take, how they conduct comparative literature. So bear that in mind. So make those statements overt in your presentation without having to include them in a slide. That's
Okay.
what I'm saying. Yeah. So the
All right.
notes can be in your hand. You can
Yeah.
raise them where necessary. Yeah.
Okay.
Or
That's
you may
wonderful.
even propose a question, right? How does this contest previous definition of comparative literature that we are aware of? You know,
Yes.
so you may propose that not as a rhetorical question, but as a question, and see what kind of response you get, and then provide your answer. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. All right. So the next slides are actually just the theoretical foundation I'm going to use. But exactly, I am challenging Totosi by applying Tutun Mukherjee's approach. I used this in my previous assignment, but basically to locate global. So I would like to introduce, like the Corpse Watcher will be the center or the centric novel in my presentation or in my comparative studies here. Uh,
Before you go into the methodology, because this is the framework that helps
mm,
inform your methodology, right?
yes.
Was there a kind of I'm jumping the gun. I'm so sorry, Ruby, because we are
Hey, no
short of
worries.
time. I just
No
want to jump
worries.
the gun. Do you have research questions in your presentation? Do you have questions that you are setting yourself to answer? to use the lens by Mukherjee to answer them.
Oh,
Is there
I
any
only have
questions?
one question actually.
Which is,
What or how does death serve as an equalizer two between two canons or two fields, or not too fair, between two national canons?
yeah,
How death is being viewed?
where do you position that? Where do you position that question in your presentation slides? Is it anywhere?
Oh, I'm not put. I have not put it here because I wasn't actually thinking about putting a question.
I
Only
would
when
put
you
I would put that between slide 2 and 3. So if you can put
wonderful.
another slide there, at the end of your synopsis, no,
Hmm?
the other way, between
This way.
slide 2 and 3.
Oh, sorry. Okay, here.
That means after you've done your synopsis,
Hmm?
you are asking your thesis statement, and then you're identifying your thesis statement, and based on the thesis statement, what's the question that you want to try to address in the course of this seminar, right? So this
Yes.
is it. And then you go into slide 4. So you curate the experience. You curate the experience of your audience on how you are engaging the story that you want to tell about the reading of these two novels. So your experience as a reader comes across very unique because you have a very particular perspective from which you want to address the discussion of death, this discussion of death from two different perspectives, two significant different perspectives, right?
Yes.
And how the two perspectives, in fact, have a huge significance in terms of similarity, but also very distinct differences, right? you
Exactly.
might
Yes.
think you might think we are all humans, so death will affect us all equally the same, right? But
Yes.
in fact, the two novels shows that it is not. There lies the importance of comparative literature. There
Mm.
lies the significance of crossing borders. There lies the significance of tapping into two different national canons. So you
Yes.
are saying it indirectly, but the way you tell your story of how you approach this topic is as significant as the methodology and the lens and all the rest of it.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, this is so huge, Doctor. Thank you very much. A
But
research
this is
question.
this is fun, right? It's fun,
Yes.
right? Because you have all these ideas as a reader, and you're a prolific reader. Now you have to ask yourself, okay, how do I make the things that I have been reading and the issues I have been thinking about? How do I transfer that to the realm of writing and publication and readership? That
Yes.
means you now participate in that dialogue with
Mm.
other readers, not just in through your group discussions and all the other things that you're involved in, but in a critical fashion using academic framework,
Yes. Because I have a
right?
lot of these statements, a lot of these overwhelming thematic statements that I'm not sure where to place. So I'm glad that I'm seeing it now, like a proper research question. So yeah, so that will be my research question. But this is basically how I'm doing all of like the whole seminar.
Mm.
And then so basically, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, go through it.
Okay,
I
and then
have five
so
more minutes. I'm so
okay,
sorry
so it's all right.
because my next
So
meeting is
these are
at
all
9.
theory. But however, so these are the things that I would touch on. This is basically just a summary of my analysis, and then I'm gonna have extracts. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. This is a little bit of Freud and but yeah. But this I think I will not put. I think I will put actually because this is how some articles they view death in a theoretical manner.
Mm,
And then in doing so, because the second article mentioned about how death as a literary device actually broadcasts longings of our characters.
mm,
And then I'm going to move on to the extract. So, because death is such an overarching theme,
yeah.
what does death functions in the novels?
Mm,
So I noticed there's a lot of the issue of power.
mm,
What does death means for them? Death is a power trapping Jawat. I'll start with Sinan Antun.
mm,
Secondly, death martyrs those who die in a country at war. And
mm,
then number three, death becomes death serves as a provider of economic stability. And then I'll move on to yellow birds. Again, similarities we can see here where when someone dies, it actually gives the living certain benefit or a certain privilege of being alive. So here in the yellow birds, death of others would save you as a soldier. Uh, and then yes, and then this is the affirmation of life. So I've mentioned this in our discussion last week. So yeah, so this one I'm still I was actually still writing it, but then this one sort of contests the previous two extracts because no matter how many times they have seen death, trauma still happen. It still haunts them. It still haunts and shocks them in such a severe manner. So yes, so I will I will put the extracts on the slides to just show how death, or how is death viewed and the consequences and how it changes the lives of the characters, and then they became different people by the end of the novels.
Good. I would
Okay.
suggest
Mhm.
the literature review slide. I would suggest you may even begin on that point. Where's the
Literature
literature?
review meaning the theory, these
No,
articles, right? Or
where
the
is the
extracts.
about death and Termizi's
Oh
so
yes.
sorry.
Uh, okay, over here.
Yeah,
All right.
you may begin your presentation here. You
Oh,
may put
wonderful.
this you may put this as slide number one, meaning you set the premise and say, look, let's talk about something that we're not happy to talk about,
Yes.
because it's very bleak and fatalistic and all the
and,
rest of
and still
it.
quite taboo in certain societies. Yeah.
For sure, right? But let's talk about it. So you set the premise, just one slide, talk about this, and then have a question. Have the question. Where's number four? Slide number four. What's the question again? Okay. Have a question that's a little bit more generic. How is death viewed by different cultures? Okay, then you may ask Salim, you may ask Alice, you may
Oh
ask
yes.
Shah, and because you want to engage with your audience, you want to make them feel that they are part of the discussion rather than you are there,
Presenting, so to speak.
presenting. Yes, because that's what a seminar should do. A seminar should engage the audience, right?
Mm,
So how is death viewed? Then from this slide, you may go straight into the question that you have posed, which is how is death viewed in two corpus from two different cultures. And then you introduce your corpus. So you see the story is clearly presented now. So you are doing
yes.
literature review, but based on the literature review, you're helping your audience maybe infer certain ideas themselves based on their own horizon of expectation.
Yes.
And then you introduce the corpus, and then you introduce the issues that you are dealing with and the methodology, and then you go straight into your analysis.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so
Okay.
you don't want to break the monotony. You don't want to break it with, like, you've introduced a corpus and then suddenly you go to the literature review, and then
Yes.
you're trying to, the bulk of your discussion should come from the time you introduce your corpus right straight
Mm,
to the conclusion.
yes.
Okay, that's the first. The second, I would say is that for every slide, make sure you have a title heading,
All right.
like for the themes that you have identified. Just a second. Okay. For every slide, make sure you have a subheading or a title heading. Just a
Yes.
word or two or a phrase, just to kind of clue the audience or the readers on what is the focus of this particular slide. What is she focusing on? What's the purpose of this slide?
Yes.
But otherwise, it looks good. Can I see the conclusion? Have you come up to the
Oh,
conclusion?
yes. I'm not sure where I got this, but for me, based on both readings, that serves as some sort of an equalizer, as it impacts them in the same degree of horrifying manner. Soldiers and civilians, people with
Mm,
power,
mm,
versus people who are, people who notice violence being inflicted on them.
mm.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
All
That
right.
looks good. It looks good.
Oh,
I
thank
look
you.
forward to Thursday's presentation.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much, Doctor. So many helpful tips, to be honest.
I
Uh,
see a possible journal article, Ruby. I'm not going to freak you out, so
yeah.
I'll save that for another moment. But this is very good. It's simple yet to the point and mind and thoughtful.
All right.
So we want to have these discussions out not just within the six or seven of us, but we want to try to kind of circulate it to a wider audience. So my recommendation is, because the recording will be provided for all of you, so you may look at your own seminar, especially the things you say during the seminar might be things that you have not even written down, you
Yeah.
have not even thought through, so the recording will be there, and I strongly recommend that you make time to put it together as a draft, and I wouldn't mind co-writing it with you, and we could send it out to a journal at your own time. It's not part of the assignment. I'm not making a requirement, but if you want to convert this and strengthen it for your final project, you can.
Yeah.
It's your
I'll be very interested,
Yeah.
actually. So yes, I'll try.
All right. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you so much. I'll see you Thursday then, Doctor.
Bye bye.
Okay. Bye bye.